So what do these two items have in common? Well, they both came from the same auction. I don't know what either is worth yet, and you may say, well, Brian, as experienced as you are, why would you buy something you don't know what its value is? And the answer to that question lies in this week's auctions. Let's take a look at that. The book and the Starbucks mug came from an auction. This is kind of a Starbucks candy skull travel mug. This one's a Sir Arthur Conan Doyle book about Sherlock. It's a nice particular version. Embossed leatherette cover, silverish page edges. I don't know their value. And you want to know, well, how can you buy something without understanding its value? How do you expect to resell it for a profit? And therein lies the tale of three auctions. We're going to call them Manny, Moe, and Jack. You've probably seen Manny, Moe, and Jack. Their caricatures are used to sell car parts across the country. I think they've got 1,200 stores now in 35 states, but I first spotted them in Southern California when I lived there. Company's been around over 100 years, or at least the name. And like these auctions and the points I'm going to make, they've changed. In fact, the original Pep Boys, Manny, Moe, and Jack, have passed on. But during their run, company acquired other businesses to expand into new markets. And eventually they were acquired because the original owners, as I say, had passed on. So they had a long history, they had some difficulties, but they made a lot of profit. So we're going to call our three auctions today Manny, Moe, and Jack. They have some similarities, and like the caricatures on the Pep Boys commercials, they have some differences. As I show you Manny, Moe, and Jack, which one has the type of lots you want to source? Which ones have the lots you could manage for space and volume and enough skill to clean up and resource tools? Am I going to engage in this? Because that's the first question you've got to ask yourself. Doesn't matter if it's Manny, Moe, or Jack. Are you going to engage? Is there something there that fits your niche, catches your interest, you're curious about? What makes you say, I am going to play in this auction? Three auctions. Similarities. They were all posted online. They're all in my local area, which means a local pickup. And that differs, of course, from many of the auctions I do these days where I go online, I bid. When I win something, I have it sent to me. In fact, we'll be doing one of those probably in a few days. I've got some packages inbound. We'll have a mail call. We'll see what the mail buoy brings. But these three, Manny, Moe, and Jack, were all local, which meant driving to pick up the items after the sale. Similarities. You have to do the pickup on their schedule. That's one. You have to take a vehicle. And the size of the lots, the volume of the lots you win, determine the vehicle. In some cases, it would have meant a trailer. At this point in my life and our goal of downsizing and right-sizing, taking a trailer to do auction pickups, it's one of those hesitant things, and we'll get into that in a minute. So you have to be selective. You have to decide within the limited pickup schedule that the auction company posts, can you get everything in one trip? And at some point I'll do a video about buying your first trailer if you want to expand into the scope and the size of the loads you pick up. But these days I try to restrict my pickups to one truckload. On a good day, according to Rose, we only have to take her car because the stuff is even smaller. And that's one of the mental conflicts I always have. It's almost like muscle memory. I spent so many years buying in such volume, entire estates, trailer loads at auction, moving sales, clearing out businesses. It's hard for me to see value in lots and pass them up. Even though here at the lake, We run smack into some of the criteria that you're going to have. You got to decide how much capital you're going to invest on one auction, how much risk you're going to take, how much storage volume you're willing to give up. Because as we work to downsize and right size, I'm finally beginning to see space in my workshop. The top of my table saw was clear for the first time this summer. I can now use it as a work surface. I'm beginning to get some aisles. I've still got a lot of bins from the stuff we brought down from the old house at Seebeck when we were running a much bigger operation. So I'm liking the fact that I've got more space. The problem is I've got to avoid filling it with just big general stuff. I'm trying to be more selective. I'm trying to make sure that the effort involved with each lot I pick up and the space it takes to store it is commensurate with the ease and ability to sell it. Manny was a local sale, very close to me, on the same peninsula I live on, over by a restaurant Rose and I frequent when we take the girls out for an event. In fact, it's about the only restaurant on the peninsula with us. If we want restaurants, we have to at least go to town. As happens, Rose and I arranged the day so we could go over to the restaurant at Spencer Lake, have breakfast, and then go a block further and down towards the water and do the pickup. I'll show you the lots I picked, and I'll show you the lots I considered. Manny was a sale run on a site called Max Sold. It's not my preferred site. I don't care for the way the software works. And they don't do a lot of sales in my area. But when one pops up, especially that local, we're probably talking 10, 15 minutes away from the house, I will go and check out the auction lots. I will look and see, am I going to engage in this? Because that's the first question you've got to ask yourself. Doesn't matter if it's Manny, Moe, or Jack. Are you going to engage? Is there something there that fits your niche, catches your interest, you're curious about? What makes you say, I'm going to play in this auction? Well, there were a lot of good lots there. From the lot arrangement and from the lot type, I had to wonder if this was an eBay seller. It was listed, I think, as a moving sale, and like everybody else, eBay resellers move. And often when you do, we move down from Seebeck. We accessed an awful lot of volume, big items, quantity. We accessed them before we loaded the trailers to move here. And that's what I had an inkling it was. And that was confirmed because a couple of the lots I bought were empty storage containers. And they were still marked with labels on the side that said for eBay. Okay, my initial assessment of what I saw online matched what I found when I got there. And I'll show you that. There was an awful lot of stiff plush animals, a lot of Polish pottery, and some lots that were still new stock in quantity. And the bells went off, and I said, this looks like a reseller. Could be a store that shut down, not necessarily an eBay seller, but a reseller. An auction pickup, local to us, so we had a chance to grab breakfast first. And interestingly enough, it looks like it was an eBay seller getting ready to move to a new house. There's a for sale sign in front of the house. But I had a wonder about it even before we got there, because there were a number of lots that look like this one, Polish pottery. Here you can see them. And whenever there's that much of a similar item, you first think collector. And then when you look a little closer, you wonder. There are a lot of stiff plush there as well. But as we look through here, here's more plush, more pottery. There was an awful lot of other product that seemed to be sealed. Some bath and beauty products, hens and chicks. So it was too broad of a collection to be one collector. Well, I picked up a couple lots of empty totes. I've been shifting over some of my cardboard boxes of inventory into clear totes. And because we're getting ready to do a big physical inventory, I thought a few good clear totes would be useful. And I always like the small half-size totes for expanding what I store in the office. Things that I don't want to put outside. So at an auction where you saw both red wing pottery and mixed porcelain and a lot of amber, I thought something interesting was happening at this auction. And sure enough, a number of the empty totes I picked up had eBay inventory numbers on the side. But here you can see it. And Rose found a few things she wanted in the way of garden pots. So that's always good. But here you can see some more of the auction lots. Sold one of these just last week. More of the Polish pottery. More Stife. Antique books, amber. Halloween pumpkins. Here you can see it as we go through it. A jewelry chest or a jewelry armoire. Brass, Polish pottery. Shawnee pottery. I was watching those, but the achieved price got a little high to make sure I made a profit. But a couple of things I did buy were German lots. I also picked up a couple of these lots. My inventory of healthcare was almost exhausted, so I picked up this Mary Kay product. And I picked up this one, which is Christmas. And I didn't really pick it up for the Christmas, though there is some tissue and wrapping I'll put to use. What I actually wanted were the lidded totes that came with the lot. Yeah, I'll probably send out all the rest at Christmas time to the local auction, but it's a good cheap way to get tissue paper for wrapping up your eBay sales. And around the holidays, some people just like to use Christmas wrap as void fill. So if Rose doesn't have a use for this or Brandy have a use for this, some of it will get flipped out to the auction, the local auction. Some of it will just be used as packing paper. But like I say, I wanted the totes, because this is the size tote I like to store things like watches, belt buckles, other smalls. You put smalls like belt buckles in too big of a tote, it takes you too long to find it. And the one thing I don't care for this site, this particular auction software, is that if you go into a lot like I just did and come back out, it doesn't put you back in the flow. It takes you to the top of the page and you have to scroll again. It also has an annoying habit of making the default the lot with the most bids. It has a function to sort, and you can sort by next item to close or lowest lot number to highest, but it doesn't stick. So every time you go into a lot to look at it and back out, you've got to redo your sort. It seems like most bids would be about the least effective way to sort an auction. You can see it right here. Most bids is the default. And closing soonest would make more sense as the default, as would lot number low to high, first lot closing. So if you select this and then you go in to look at a lot, and then you come back out, it's gone back to most bids. Really annoying feature of this particular site. So if you're watching this Max Sold, I've sent them feedback from the help screen down here in the past, but they never seem to actually give any consideration to the way their users are actually trying to use the site. Because while you're busy readjusting, here's some of the pots Rose picked out. And what she'll do is she'll see if she wants any of them for herself, but more than likely she'll screen the dirt, put some plants in them, and then sell the pots and plants with an actual living plant in them. It's a way a gardener can make a little extra money. Starbucks, they had about 5 lots of Starbucks cups. So that's a good indication that they may be a reseller. Most people don't keep that many cups around. These were popular, these nesting hens, 10 years ago, but the market is way down. And of course they're getting rid of their excess household furniture. Mexican pottery. This is one of those auctions that's full of smalls that are good for eBay resellers. Glass, studio glass, vintage nursery planters, holidays. Here's a lot I picked up. German language book collection. So you can hear $7.50 plus auction commission fees. There should be some nice profit in that lot. 1908. Yeah, some unique stuff. An Italian-English dictionary. Yeah, I think this will be a good lot. Starbucks tumblers. So yeah, there's a good opportunity when an eBay reseller decides to get out of the business or relocate the business and not take the inventory with them. Here's the other German lot I picked up. Souvenirs, dolls, decals. These are for car decals. I like little lots like this because you only have to find a couple of items in the lot to make a nice profit, and then you can turn around and group it up and send it to a local auction, better sorted. Here you go, pins, travel pins, pennants. Yeah, I like this lot. I have no idea who this guy is, but it doesn't really matter. What you want to look up and search for, and then simply dump the surplus for whatever it returns to you. Because Rose was picking up filled planters, I made sure we took a hand truck along, because you never know where they're going to be staged. And in this case, the heavy stuff was in the backyard, so she wheeled them around one or two at a time, and we loaded them into the truck. But yeah, all in all, a good proper opportunity here. Well, that was Manny, and we went over. I did bid, and we filled the truck. First time I filled a full truck in a while, and of course I had to roll the tonneau cover to load. Some of what Rose picked up were big pots from the yard, and she'll use them as part of the resale. She'll sift the dirt, clean the pots, put in new plants, and come spring she'll sell those. But I think it's more than the amount of money she'll make from it. For her digging in the dirt and saving plants and garden things, that's her jam. In fact, I was teasing her about it, about whether she would make enough from that effort for the amount of time it took to get the pots. But we were going anyway. If I can get her to engage in an auction, I don't hear as much about what I buy and whether I'm working contrary to my stated purpose. We brought it back, and of course it rained that morning. So first time I'd had the tonneau cover rolled, it rained. But we had packed all the stuff that could be damaged by rain in the cab, and we put things like garden pots and empty totes in the truck bed. And I've got some photos showing how full the back seat of the four-door cab on that truck was. And yesterday I unloaded it. Rain had stopped, so I went over to agate, and I left the things in agate that I didn't need right away, like the totes, because I'm trying to shift some of my X9 boxes into plastic totes, smaller totes, this size. I like them for little things like belt buckles, watch cases, that type of thing. So I'm about to clean up the office, add a little more shelving, and I'll need those totes to help keep it organized. So buying your storage totes at auction is a good way to save some money. The price of totes these days has gotten very high. When I worked for the auction, I used to buy entire leftover remaining lots if they were in totes. Those totes were full. The totes I bought this week were empty, so I'll be able to put them to use immediately. In fact, some of them we used to pack the other lots right at the sale. I got the totes first, wiped them out, used them to put the stock in that I bought. Brought them home in totes, made the toting and the lifting easier. That's Manny. Moe was 6 or 7 lots that really grabbed my attention. The location for Moe was about an hour away, maybe an hour and 10 minutes, back over towards where we used to live. And of all the lots in the auction, these 6 or 7 grabbed my attention. They were big, they were messy, they were tools, they were what I used to do. And like I said, it's almost like muscle memory. The urge to push that button and bid, it was there. I had to really talk myself off the ledge for a few reasons. Lots like that have a tremendous ROI, probably the biggest in the biz. You know, it's when you can buy things for pennies on the dollar and you can flip them in a reasonable amount of time and you can make good margins, those lots should catch your attention if they fit your criteria. And that's the thing. They no longer really fit my criteria. I don't have the space to store things like radial arm saws and workbenches. You know, I used to flip that stuff out locally or take it in to work with me and sell it at auction once I'd cleaned it up and tested it. Which brings up the next point. It sucks your time to do the cleaning and testing. When you're talking about full-size drill presses or even benchtop drill presses, each tool I've got to take a paintbrush to it and dust off the sawdust and the spider webs, and I've got to plug them in and see if they come on, see if they work, make sure the motors haven't burned up, and then I've got to decide how much cleaning I'm going to go. Am I going to get some steel wool out and clean the steel deck on the drill press? Am I going to dress up the grinding wheels, wipe down the cords, roll up the cords and put a tie wrap on them? So processing those lots is time consuming. So you're exchanging ROI for time. But I used to do that stuff when I had a very large shop, multiple buildings, and trailers. Because that's the thing about Moe. Moe would mean I'd have to take a trailer. I'll show you the lots. These are big corners or walls of garages and workshops. The volume is huge. You get 2 or 3 of these, it's more than a pickup truck load, which means a trailer, because again, the pickup windows are often short. They only say everybody's got to be in and out between 2 o'clock and 6:30. Well, that's only a 4-hour pickup, and you can get there and there can be a line of people in front of you. And some appointments are available for some auctions. Others are a first come, first serve. And if you're taking a trailer and a truck, jockeying in around all the people who can't park in a straight line or wait their turn becomes a challenge. Getting close to the pickup point, you know, if it's a garage attached to the house on the driveway, not so bad. If it's a workshop in the back and you've got to go hundreds of feet around a house, moving things like workbenches, radial arm saws, full-size drill presses, the staging alone is a challenge. And the pickup day, as it turned out, was a day in which Rose was not available to carry the other end of the bench. So I would have been struggling with these lots by myself, which is a bigger challenge as I've gotten older, and I tore up a knee a decade ago. So when I overworked my knee, I limped for a few days. So part of our current model is smaller objects that are easier to handle. Even if they're in totes, they can be put on a hand truck, brought around to the truck, loaded. I was moving a tote full of dirt the other day, and Rose and I went to pick it up. Nope, had to shovel out half the tote of dirt into the wheelbarrow to pick up the other half. So I've no longer got the strength and stamina of a young man. I think we've correctly changed our business model. But that urge to go back when there's a lot like that or several lots like that, it's hard to fight. Because I love taking all those things that are left over in somebody else's shop, especially when the weather's good and I can pull up next to my white tables and I can lay it out and I can turn it back into groups and lots. I can say, oh, this little item is good for eBay. This item plus this item plus this item, bar clamps for instance, they can go to a local auction. And I can just wipe them down, bundle them up, and put them in the next trip going out to a consignment auction. I can fairly quickly process a trailer load of that kind of stuff. Faster probably than bringing a truckload of bins into the garage and saying, well, I can get to that this winter. So the big things do force you to deal with them faster. The first lot I have tagged is closing in 20 minutes. And this auction initially got me very, very excited because this is the type of work I used to do. and I had to watch it for a couple of days. This lot was sitting at $2 this morning. This one was a little higher. This one was at $2. This one was at 37. This one was still under 40. And there's one more here that I think it was at 18 or 20. And those 6 lots, along with a few other small lots, almost convinced me I should bid on this auction. Because the ROI, the return on investment for lots, especially if you can get them this cheap, was tremendously high. They're a lot of work. And that's what a lot of people fail to realize when they're first looking at this. Workbenches, older tools, shop lights, a radial arm saw. We'll talk more about that radial arm saw in a minute. But as you look at these, you probably see nothing but items covered in dust. Here's a chainsaw sharpener, tools, more tools, hand tools, bar clamps, sockets, ratchets, sanders. Underneath here is a chain fall, some more bar clamps. And if you look underneath here, this is probably an engine hoist. But look at all the dust and cobwebs. And a lot of people can't see past that. You also get the workbench. But that's just one lot. Here's a lot, and this one in particular, this is an interesting one because you get the contents of the shelf, but the note in the lot information says you only have to take what you want. And if people miss that note, now see here, I have to think the auction company may have set this box in front of the shelf to make it more interesting. Because here's a Dungeons and Dragons, here's some Star Wars, here's a Superman. This stuff has no place with the rest of the lot contents. And if you look through here, there's a lot of money mixed in here. Saw blades, chalk lines, engine oil, cleaners. And if you need this stuff, here's a whole case of oil. If you need this stuff, this is the way to get it. Something new and blue, frames of some type. But all of this you get to pick and choose. Now, it used to be if we picked up, here's some product new in box, but I don't know what it is. So this is an Easter egg hunt. In our area, we have a hazmat disposal place. So when we used to find this stuff in storage units, we couldn't leave it like you can at this auction lot. And the problem was that the hazmat facility put a limit on how much you could bring at one time. We found it much easier to dispose of it by putting it on a pallet and then offering it, free. But here's another one. It was sitting at $2 this morning. This looks like wraps for cleaning, extension cords, LED lights, more extension cords, a blower, more of those picture frames, step stools. As you can see, there's a lot of volume. And to make money from this, there's a grinder, grinding wheels. You have to be able to process it. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about. Wire. Wire makes a good lot all by itself. All right, this one was sitting at 37. It's a chest-on-chest toolbox with contents. Now, it's not a lot of high-value contents, but still there's money in those toolboxes. Right there, money. Money. But you have to be able to turn it into cash. Now this one again was sitting at 30-something this morning. It's got a full upright drill press, a short drill press, a Honda generator, a grinder, and a bandsaw. And the last one is a giant air compressor. You can see it here, the big upright type with the motor on top. And this is the type that you'd want to make sure if there was a power outlet near where you were picking this up, you'd want to test it at their location so that when you go to sell it, you can say test it. Because these are like dryers and welders. They often need a heavier plug in order to run them. Your average garage outlet isn't going to do it. And sometimes these are hardwired, so you have to take the tools to actually disconnect it from its power source. But there's good money in these, and we'll talk all about that. I just wanted to record these right now before the auction ended so we can talk about it after I clean up. I was just out digging more on the retaining wall trench, so I need to clean up. But we'll see, we'll check back in after my shower, and we'll see what the final bids were on these. With some auctions, it's hard to go back and look. So, and you can see this Blue Nest is the company running this one. This is a different auction. And I may be bidding on these a little bit later. This belt buckle lot was sitting at $20 today. It's with the tools. So it would have also been a great lot if I would have decided to bid. But it would go counter to the goals we've set for ourselves in retirement. Now, among the items I saw on that workbench lot, and remember, for about a week, that workbench lot sat at $2. So at $2, when you look at things like the big vise, the older tools, you see an instant profit. As the auction came to a close, the lot prices jumped. And in fact, the drill press one surprised me, because within a minute of the close of the auction, it kept bumping and being pushed and getting more and more and more bids. And I think it took another 20 bids and closed in the 150. We'll have it on the video I shot, so we'll take a look at those numbers. And here they are battling it out still. I took my shower and look, it's up to 142 with 12 seconds left. So some competition for this lot. That was a good lot. I don't know if it was that good. Maybe they think Honda generators are great, but this is a pretty old model, and the chances are it would need extensive work in order to sell it. Let's have a look here. Yeah, it's a pretty old model. Sometimes I've found the old Hondas will still start if you get rid of the gas, clean them up a little bit, put in fresh gas. Now this, of course, is a Craftsman. That's a pretty good grinder as well. There's a Makita router in the group. This is also a Craftsman. And what's the brand on the drill press? It's a Mark. That's not all that good. It's an older model, though. And to buy a new one of these, you'd have to step up. 110 volts, that's good. 3/4 horse. Multiple speeds. Though you had to change the belt manually on this style in order to vary the speeds of your drilling. But let's see if it extended again. Oh, it did close. So we'll have to see later if we can figure that out. But I used to love those auctions. When I had the energy, when I had the space, when I had more trailers. Because we used to be able to go to a pickup like that, load that trailer, bring it back, drop it at the house, at the yellow barn, and then if the auctions came fast and furious, several in a week, I could just leave that trailer loaded, hook up another trailer, and go to the next auction, which is one of the points I'm going to make. While I was looking at bidding on Moe, I had Manny in the truck. So I hadn't unloaded Manny when I was already drawing my attention over to Moe. So having it come too quickly these days is harder at the lake. Let's talk about Jack. Gotta love Jack. Jack was run by the same people that ran Moe. Jack is currently up and open for bid. I've registered. I've started watching it. I did a little bit of recording when I had a few minutes last night to take a look at the actual format of the auction. But I haven't completely gone through and begun bidding on Jack. I've tagged the lots I like, and there's a number of them. What's there in Jack could easily fill up a truck again. But Jack's a little different than Moe, even though they're run by the same people. They're run for a different purpose. Jack is being run to keep their retail store turning over. The company that ran Moe and Jack, they run a small shop over in Bremerton right next to a couple of restaurants I like. They're not big. In fact, it's the shop that used to do the guy who did my small engine repair. When my business model was going to the pawn shop buying all the gas motor equipment that had sat too long, and people would either buy it, use it, and return it saying it didn't work, or they would buy it, get it home, and couldn't get it started because it had sat in the back of the pawn shop. So they had a room in the back of the pawn shop where they would shove all this stuff that people said had a problem. And then while I was there picking up items from the pawn shop, the salesman would take me to the back room and he'd say, "What do you want?" $5 a piece, $10 a piece. And I'd get generators and pressure washers, lawn mowers, that type of thing. And then I'd run them over to this small engine guy, and for a few bucks a piece, he'd check them out. And he'd tell me, "Well, this one needs a carburetor rebuild kit." And I'd say, "Okay, that one's got enough value, let's do that." And he'd charge me. He'd do the work in between his other jobs that were more pressing, because I was in no hurry. This was just stock that would eventually pay off. So as filler work, he'd work for a customer who needed something right away, and then he'd work on one of my items. And then once he had them, maybe the carburetor rebuilt, he'd give me a call, and while I was over there at one of those restaurants, I'd pick up a few of those at a time, and I would take them in with me and either sell them at the auction, or I'd bring them back to the house and I'd sell them on Craigslist directly, direct sales. These ladies went into the shop when my small engine guy retired, and they refurbished it. They made it look like a boutique retail shop. They did a very nice job. I didn't even recognize the place. Where he used to steam clean engines is the back room now where they run their auction half of their business out of. But they take consignments from people, they put them on their shelves and in their display windows, and they sell them for the price on the tag. In the meantime, they run auctions, estate sales, off-site. And every couple months, they need to turn over the stock that hasn't sold in their store. And after they've discounted it a bit and run a sale, they're down to the point where they've got more stuff coming in, so there's a big pressure on them to clear the shelves of the very old stock and bring in fresh stock. Because with a little store like that, to keep people interested and engaged, you've got to keep your turnover happening. And a lot of people on eBay and Etsy feel the same way. They think people are coming to their shops and browsing, so they've got to always have fresh inventory. It's probably true. I don't know that I get a lot of repeat buyers, since I sell things like replacement industrial parts and tools. I think I get mostly one-off people. I don't know. I don't have the analytics to say one way or the other for sure. But the idea of turning over stock and getting rid of old listings, it's the same for a retail store as it is for an eBay seller. You know, as your listings age, you start to think about offering sales, increasing the amount you're going to promote to eBay to get more exposure, you know, to maybe merge two lots together and make a new listing. So it's common in the retail business. Doesn't matter how you're selling. Oh, let me get some coffee here. My mouth's getting a little dry. So Jack is basically being run to clear their old stock. And it's another great opportunity. It's where I got all those foils and DC comic cards. I used one of them, I used the Death Dealer card as an example when I did the video on eBay Standard Envelope. And it came from a binder that was in a sale in their store. It was the only thing like it in the store. So I got it at a pretty good price because it was kind of out of place. So I'll be looking through this listing in the next day or so, and I'll add a clip here to this video, and you'll see that there are an awful lot of lots made up of small unopened products. Security cameras, not much in the way of tools, mostly collectibles, that type of thing. But they also get some vintage items, a cross section of whatever they carry in the store. So I'll go down through them. What I'm going to show you now is a different style auction. Same company's running it, but they've built these lots with basically clean product. Some of it is new and boxed. Some of it is used but clean. So that's the key to this type of auction. The ROI is not likely going to be as good, depending on which lots you choose to bid on, because it's already clean. People can see more value in it. They don't have to dust them off and check them and test them, because the items here are either new in the box still or they've been tested. For our assessment today, let's take a look at Jack. The first time I went into it, I went ahead and tagged with hearts those lots which I thought might be interesting. And earlier today I went through it and added a couple, like this one. Took the hearts off a couple that had already climbed up in value. And for a few of those that had hearts, I put in an initial bid since no one else had. But let's take a look at the kind of things this auction has. As I mentioned, it's a retail operation, a boutique store. They take consignments, and when the items sit too long on the shelf, they mark them down, followed by putting them into an auction. They make the space to bring in new items and put on the shelf. Good turnover keeps their store looking fresh. Now this is an item I would certainly bid on if it hadn't climbed so steeply. Kirkland Signature is our Costco store here. So that is an item right out of Costco. Light fixture, ladder, it's simply to see whether they climb. I'm not in need of either one of these items. This item, for instance, if I were to get it, I haven't bid on it, but if I were to get it, I would probably just flip it out. Consignment auction, we drop things off at if it stays low enough. This would be for shop use. Here's a mic boom, and as I've begun creating YouTube videos, I've begun looking at items that might improve the quality of my video. So this one here is some sort of a mic boom. I haven't researched it yet to see what type of a head it has for connecting a microphone to, but you never know. If the price stays low, it's at $1 right now, I might consider it. Good telescope, computerized, probably won't be bidding, but I wanted to see how high it climbed. Here's a tool I used to use back when I had my sawmill. This is a cant hook. At first glance, some people might call it a peavey, but a peavey has a sharp tip. A cant hook has a blunt edge for rolling cants as opposed to rolling logs. Cant hooks also typically have a shorter handle. This one happens to be a wooden handle. But if we look at this head, you can see there's no spike or point on it. A cant, of course, is a log that's been squared. The four slabs have been cut off, and it's in the process of being turned into beams or lumber. A $1 snow shovel, winter's coming. Here's the first item I've actually bid on. It's one of those wall or door entry flaps for a pet. Still boxed, still new, nice easy item to put up on eBay. Here's the first real lot of items. All right, a lot of people say Funkos are a thing of the past. They're definitely on the decline. But here you're looking at, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4 large ones, 11 small ones, and something in a Ziploc. So again, if you can get them at $1 a piece, they can be lotted up, sold on eBay if the particular ones have value, or sent to a different auction in smaller lots to turn a quick profit. Here's a McFarlane. In fact, I listed a McFarlane toy today. It was a space creature of some kind. This one's a 7-inch Harry Potter figure. So again, I haven't had the time yet to research it, but it looks like it's a limited edition of 10,000, if 10,000 can really be considered limited. A lot of electronics in this sale. Here's a Razer headphone. Here's a Google Nest Wi-Fi router. I'm still in need of a router to put out in the green pole barn once I make the electrical connection for my circuit to hang a network on the end of it so that I can go wireless with my laptop. Here's a Sony PlayStation. Haven't bought or sold one in a while, so I'll have to check that price. These are bread and butter items, and it all comes down to potential. If the price is low enough to make 3 times my money, I would certainly consider it, because you've got fees on top of this number to buy, fees to sell, and then of course you've got to store it and ship it. It does say new in the box, so that's a nice easy flip, as are many of these items. This is a small group. Got some different things here made up, walkie-talkies. Midland's a good brand. Claw 15, I'm not sure what that is even. Let's have a look. Drywall hooks, the Claw, and some sort of a remote. Over the years, I've sold a lot of remotes. But again, it's about the price point. When looking at new open box items, it's all about whether they've been used. These are used. This one's in pretty good shape. This one's definitely seen some use, but it has its box as well. So we're watching. Carbon monoxide alarms, new in the packaging. Life straws. Life straws are interesting in that they allow you to drink fouled water in an emergency. And we've got a couple of carbon monoxide alarms. So again, random group of new items. Life straws are good to put in your emergency pack. 2 signed and framed Guild Wars posters. Again, we'll watch them this week. We still have 4 days left. We'll see where these price points go. Same is true of these autographed baseball player photos. But as we look through here, let's turn this over to 40 lots per page. We'll get through it quicker. Comic books. Anything that had a bid when I looked, I'm just going to watch. I won't bid on anything this early that already has a bid, because that just gives a person incentive to increase the price too early. Anything that has a bid like this, I'll wait until nearly the close of the auction and see. Knife lot. I'll do a little looking to see if I can pick up some brand names, binoculars. This looks like one I listed just a couple of days ago. I sell a lot of these. These are throwing knives. And here's an old timer. So some of these have boxes, some don't. Here's a claw. This is so you can spin it around on your finger and look cool. Knives with sheath. This will be a lot I'm definitely interested in. Okay, panorama cameras, rechargeable battery packs for something, Wi-Fi cameras, digital TENS unit, mini crank radio, another life straw. Again, it's all about the price point. This is a lot that didn't have a bid, so I threw in an early bid. And as we look through here, here's another one, a Pro Impact drill set, Subaru wheel locks, new in the box packaging. So these are easy flippers. As long as they're clean and complete, they can simply go right up or out to another auction where the venue is different. Change the venue, you change the perceived value. Now here's a bunch of lots of comic, and I was so busy throwing in minimum bids, I didn't even notice this one already had a bid when I did it. But you can see most of these are still sitting at $1 to $2. This one's jumped to $12 already. So that one has some early interest. So I bid on all of those that had a 0 bid. You can see it here. Comics, so that'd be a good place to pick up comics. Live odor-free odor eliminator. I'll have to look at this product and see if it actually has a resale market value. Some wireless speakers. I'm not interested in China these days, though I did just photograph 15 travel cups and travel mugs, so I can't say that I don't do China. I don't do sets anymore to speak of. Now look at this one. This one is sterling, so this has jumped out to an early bid, $200 for a set of sterling. I do sell flatware, but I normally don't bother to pay the price that sterling is commanding. All right, treasure lot. This is one of their first big lots. So this must be the business that closed down. You don't get the shelving units, but you're going to get everything else featured and shown in the lot. Art is a hard sell for me. Love it. Here's some Toby mugs, apple peeler. What else we got? I'm looking again for new old stock mixed in here with the rest of it. New stock, new stock. The other items would basically, a few would go up on eBay, but for the most part, they would simply get grouped up by theme and go out to a local auction in much smaller groups. Booby Trap, that's a fun old game. And of course, you've got built-in lots. You could literally just take this group right here, and if you found nothing that had value separately on eBay as either parts or a complete game, you could simply put it all in a box and send it to an auction as a game lot. I'm not sure what these are down here. We'll have a look when we find that close-up picture. Discovering Antiques. I picked up a book lot the other day that had some collector antique type books in it. So if I were to buy this group, these books could simply be put with the other books and go out as a group once their value was checked for individual sales. Wicker, home stuff. We do sell a certain amount of linens. Curtains, especially if they're packaged. Occasionally Rose will find a good quality name brand set of sheets. Oh, look at this one. This one's fun. You've got some hallmarks. Some of these have enough value. I sold a Bobby Orr ornament about a month ago. It brought the better part of $40. This type of stuff doesn't have much resale value. I take it by theme like barware, and I would just simply group this and send it out to a local auction. Because if you're going to play in this game, this is almost like Moe, except it's all clean product. So in that sense, you've got to be ready to take it, lot it up, and get it out of your store quickly. Unless, of course, you've got plenty of space and your back stock of inventory is down low so that you would actually have an interest in trying to sell some of this. Oh, buried behind it, here's a native piece. Looks like it's on foam board, so you don't have to worry about glass, probably in a saran. This item could make the art interesting. I don't like shipping framed art under glass unless it's very small, but items like this, they're a nice easy flip. I'm surprised they don't have that native art out front where it's visible. And again, you can see perhaps some vintage stuff. Here's some stainless. We'd mix and match this and try to just simply flip it back out. There's definitely enough there to make a lot. Here's an interesting boat style, must be a serving piece of some kind. All right, that's all one lot. And like I say, you buy a couple of those and you'll begin to have to think about the volume you're picking up. But since the window for open pickup for this is about a week long, you could make 2 trips. Here's another treasure lot, smaller. It's the items on the counter, it looks like. Again, you'd be looking for new old stock or something you could use. This looks like little miniature, what are these, magnets? Little figurines, that might be a Wade figurine right there. But you can see these were the prices they were trying to achieve in the store when this stuff was available to buy right there off the shelves. And it sat too long, it went through their color code system, now it's being clearanced at auction. I think there's a couple of boxes like that. Here we go. These look like Spanish mud figures. Again, probably would have to take them and make them 1 or 2 lots. Perhaps you have mixed lots, like here's a Padre, here's a Japanese geisha. This looks like it could be a pirate. So you could split them up by theme and send them out. This one looks like a hooded villain here. But yeah, you'd split them up by group and then see what the market was up on a site like eBay. Hookahs. And then a page or better of Department 56 lots. And they were pretty generous in the way they lotted these up. Accessories, main buildings, it's all about value. So as I have the time in the next couple of days, I'll take a look at a few of these, especially if they're smaller boxes, because I don't like shipping the really large ones. The shipping cost just begins to become prohibitive. But we'll take a look at these. They seem to all have their packaging, or most all have their packaging, and those are the ones that are good to send up on eBay, because they usually have the styrofoam inserts. Here's some more Department 56, and the competition, Heritage Village. Now, I have no idea whether Heritage Village holds the same kind of market value as Department 56, but a little checking, because most of these, when you open them up, they've either got a name or a part number. So if you can zoom in on these, find a part number, here we go, or a name, here's a number, you can normally run a comp. So this is a Fieldstone footbridge, here's a number, so you could actually check the value. And again, since they're in their original boxes, they might be new, they might be new old stock, more than likely they've been used. Alright, a bunch of Hell's Kitchen, pots and pans, but again, these look new. Iron skillets, new in unopened box. So I haven't sold or listed that particular brand, so I'll do a little research. And we've got some collections of Disney cards. 1, 2, 3 there, a fourth one here in a slightly different style. Right now the value is not up very high, or at least the perceived bidding, so we'll run some comps on these. Brass spittoons, there we go. Some other types of cards, baseball, college, another Hell's Kitchen part. Heritage collection, as I said, I'm not familiar with those. I've sold a lot of Department 56 over the years. And here's some flatware. If the price doesn't go up, I would certainly bid this. Often I bust up these sets, though. I don't send the big cabinet. The big cabinet becomes prohibited for shipping. You can make a lot more money parting these out, selling the serving pieces, and then either sell them by the setting, or depending on how many of each you've got, you can sell 6 knives, or you can sell 6 spoons, or you can, as I say, do it by the setting. Sell a knife, a fork, a spoon, that type of thing. Or a knife, 2 forks, a spoon if they've got salad and regular forks. But yeah, there's a lot of money depending on the pattern in busting them up. And then you don't have to deal with a case. Some hats. Here we go. The auction didn't really do themselves a favor with this one. You got a donkey, a cow, and a lamb. But what the listing really is 10 or 12 pieces of a nativity. So they're going right into the size of the figures and showing the lighting. But their lead photo should show all the pieces in the group, because that's the attention getter. Now, on the other hand, if you're buying, then the fact that they buried the lead and here's baby Jesus might benefit you and keep the cost down. Generally, when I get blow molds, I sell them locally. The shipping, the box size, especially for a multi-piece set, way too high. There's the Wiseman, but like I say, they actually took the pictures inside of a photo area rather than standing the whole group and setting it up in a corner and then taking them together for a good lead photo, which is a point to make about listing on eBay. Your lead photo should always be a comprehensive shot showing everything of the lot or the group. It just simply, like these, it lets people know right away how much they're talking, how many pieces. Now in this case, you're not getting 5 pieces because 2 of these boxes are for the pieces it shows. This box is for this piece, this box is for this piece. So you're getting 3 large pieces, one of which does not have its box. And that's a key factor. So like I say, I just watched an auction with Yadro. Must have been 50 pieces of Yadro that closed this week. And I didn't bid because none of them had their boxes. And the fingers, the petals on the flowers, they're just too delicate to worry about packing up individual Yadro pieces. And here we go. This one's a nautical Department 56. This one I might actually be interested in. I've never sold nautical Department 56. And sometimes I bid simply because it's a little unusual for me. An old handcrake phone appears to be a functional phone, at least in the sense that it appears to be an old one, because they've actually got the wiring terminals right here. So that could be an interesting item. Currently sitting at $1. Stamped around the world on Friendship 1. And you can see more of this Department 56 in Heritage Village. And here's a one that's a little unusual. National Lampoon Cousin Eddie's RV. There you go. You can do Christmas with Cousin Eddie. Anyway, those are the lots coming available for the auction I've nicknamed Jack. I have no idea yet, since it's 4 days away, whether I'll get any of these items. But if I do, we'll just fit the pickup in with some other chore up in the next county, because they're about an hour and 15 minutes away for pickup. Well, that's it. I'm going to take the 3 auctions, the screenshot recordings, and I'll put together a video, and I'll get this out so you can compare these 3 auctions. And you can ask yourself, would any of these lots appeal to me? Would you bid on any of these lots? And if so, what platform would you sell on? Let me know. I'd be curious to hear from you in the comments. And I'll tag them. That's the first thing I'll do, because with these online auctions, you have about a week to do your research. So I'll tag all the ones that have potential, because the interesting thing in the way I assess these auctions, it's all about potential. When I was looking at Moe, and Moe had a workbench full of tools with a big vise and a radial arm saw, and the bidding was at $2, that lot had potential. From the potential, you have to start subtracting things like, I'd have to load a trailer, I'd have to get into the auction to do the pickup, I'd have to haul physically the items, lift them and tote them and get them in the trailer, I'd have to get them home, I'd have to clean them, I might have to repair them, I'll have to lot them up. So those are detractors from potential. But if, after you look at it, it's one of the nice things about Jack, if all the items listed in Jack as lots are clean and ready to go, they're either new or they've been wiped down to show on a retail store display, they've been checked over already. You know, you're not going to find something that doesn't work at Jack. You're very likely going to find something that doesn't work at Moe. Because Manny was a moving sale, you might find something that's incomplete or not work at Manny. So that makes Manny, Moe, and Jack very different experiences. Their uniqueness, pluses, minuses. We'll look down through Jack, and the first thing we'll do is we'll put little hearts on all the items from the entire auction we're interested in. And that cuts our volume to assess, because you can go to your watch list, you can go to your tagged items, and you can have a page of just those. When I filmed Moe, what you saw was just the 6 or 7 lots on a couple of lines, because that is what I had pulled out from the whole auction to screen and check for potential. So I wasn't having to deal with the hundreds and hundreds of auction lots, scrolling through them, looking for the very few that I was interested. So when I look through Jack, I'll be looking for potential. And at the same time, before it comes near the close of the auction, I'll say, what is Jack's lot worth? Jack, all right, say Jack has an item that I believe I can get $40 for on eBay, $40. So Jack's potential is $40. Jack's lot number 7. So lot 7 is worth $40 to me. So I first have to look at what are the eBay fees. So I have to back down from $40. What are the auction fees that they'd be charging me in addition to the $40? Now I'm backing down some more. I've got to prorate my time and my fuel and the wear on my vehicle to drive over to Bremerton and pick up however many lots I get from Jack. So I've got my cost of going to get them. I've got my time involved in going to get them. Now, one nice thing about the way they do Jack is because it's a retail operation and these lots are moved from the shelves out front and the displays into the back room, they open the pickup for about a week. As long as you show up within that window of a week, you can show up anytime their store is open. Now that's a very nice attribute, because unlike Moe, when I said, well, there's some heavy stuff there and Rose isn't available, so I'd have to be hand trucking that drill press by myself and worrying about losing it and getting it into the trailer. Well, for Jack, I've got a week, so I can fit the pickup for Jack probably either with another chore or a steak breakfast. I can usually entice Rose to go with me if there's a steak breakfast involved. Or I can work it around Rose's social schedule. We can do other things while we're up in that area because that's where we used to live. It also keeps you in contact with the people who run these auctions. If they don't see your face in a while, they're not as likely to do something when you need, hey, can you bring that back to the office from Moe? It's just a little item. Maybe it's a box of those belt buckles. Can you throw those in a box and bring them back? And when I'm over picking up Jack, I can pick up the belt buckles from Moe. But back to lot 7. If we say lot 7 is worth 40, and we start subtracting the fees involved and the cost to go pick it up, then we have to say, what are the chances that it's complete and good to go? There's no problem. There's no failure rate. There's no likelihood of return. Well, that makes Jack the most attractive of the 3 from a reselling point of view. It's the least amount of work to go from picking it up to listing it. The ROI may not be as good though. The ROI on Moe is hard to beat. All right, Manny. I'll show you a few of the lots from Manny. I didn't pick up all that many lots, about a page full, but because they were close, if the prices hadn't climbed and the value had been there, because that's another thing about potential. As the week goes on, from when the auction's first screenable to when the hammer comes down on the lot, you're going to see the price climb. As the price climbs, you're losing potential. That workbench lot with the big vise and the tools and the radial arm saw, at $2 it had great potential. When it came up time to close, not so much potential because you're working for less profit. So you have to value your time. Over here, my labor is worth a certain amount to me. Over here, not so much. And that was a final point probably to make about Moe. I finally had to tell myself, would the few $100s I make from Moe be worth setting back my goals for the summer? We've got outdoor projects that are competing for time. The culvert, the retaining wall. Clearing floor space in my garage so we can work out of there this winter. Clearing off horizontal spaces so we can do our eBay store inventory. Perhaps doing an auction or 2 of our own to get rid of some medium value items that are mailable. So if my stated goal is to sell smaller items that can be stored easier, return decent money, and not have overcrowded buildings where the aisles are diminishing, Moe works contrary to my goals, especially considering I had Manny in the truck. I got Jack coming up in a few days. I had to say no to Moe. No more Moe. But it's hard. That radial saw on Moe is a story of its own. Sears ended up in a lawsuit years back. I think there was a recall on just about every model of radial arm saw they ever made. They lost a lot of money, and there was an opportunity there that I used to triple dip on those radial arm saws. This is Brian, Cabin Fever. I'm out at the lake. It's a nice sunny day today. I've got to go in and do some listing and some photography. Go out and buy at an auction. It's fun. You'll get hooked. Just don't spend too much, because neither Manny, Moe, nor Jack are a good thing if you spend too much.